Good morning. Welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading Deuteronomy chapter 26. And it shall be, when thou art come in unto the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance, and possessest it, and dwellest therein, that thou shalt take of the first of all the fruit of the earth, which thou shalt bring of thy land that the Lord thy God giveth thee, and shalt put it in a basket, and shalt go unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name there. And thou shalt go unto the priest that shall be in those days, and say unto him, I profess this day unto the Lord thy God, that I am come unto this country, which the Lord sware unto our fathers for to give us. And the priest shall take the basket out of thine hand, and set it down before the altar of the Lord thy God. And thou shalt speak and say before the Lord thy God, A Syrian, ready to perish, was my father, and he went down into Egypt, and sojourned there with a few, and became there a nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians evil entreated us, and afflicted us, and laid upon us hard bondage. And when we cried unto the Lord God of our fathers, the Lord heard our voice, and looked on our affliction, and our labor, and our oppression. And the Lord brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand, and with an outstretched arm, and with great terribleness, and with signs, and with wonders. And he hath brought us into this place, and hath given us this land, even a land that floweth with milk and honey. And now, behold, I have bought the firstfruits of the land, which thou, O Lord, hast given me. And thou shalt set it before the Lord thy God, and worship before the Lord thy God. And thou shalt rejoice in every good thing which the Lord thy God hath given unto thee, and unto thine house, thou, and the Levite, and the stranger that is among you, when thou hast made an end of tithing all the tithes of thine increase the third year, which is the year of tithing, and hast given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within thy gates and be filled. Then thou shalt say before the Lord thy God, I have bought away the hallowed things out of mine house, and also have given them unto the Levite, and unto the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow, according to all thy commandments which thou hast commanded me. I have not transgressed thy commandments, neither have I forgotten them. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away aught thereof for any unclean use, nor given aught thereof for the dead. But I have hearkened to the voice of the Lord my God, and have done according to all that thou hast commanded me. Look down from thy holy habitation from heaven, and bless thy people Israel, and the land which thou hast given us, as thou swarest unto our fathers, a land that floweth with milk and honey. This day the Lord thy God hath commanded thee to do these statutes and judgments. Thou shalt therefore keep and do them with all thine heart and with all thy soul. Thou hast avouched the Lord this day to be thy God, and to walk in his ways, and to keep his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and to hearken unto his voice. And the Lord hath avouched thee this day to be peculiar people, as he hath promised thee, and that thou shouldest keep all his commandments, and to make thee high above all nations, which he hath made in praise, and in name, and in honor, and that thou mayest be an holy people unto the Lord thy God, as he hath spoken. Summarizing Deuteronomy chapter 26, Moses continues his extended farewell address, summarizing information that will help the second generation of Israel out of Egypt establish their kingdom when they get into the land of Canaan, also known as the Promised Land. Verses 1 through 10. When you come into Canaan and control the land, take the first fruit in a basket to the place of worship to be discussed, because right now Israel does not know the location of where their permanent worship structure is going to be. They've been using a portable worship structure, and Moses may not have that information from God because God told him he's going to die. He's not going to be able to go into Canaan. So take your first fruit in a basket to the place of worship, give it to the priest, recite out loud the story of Jacob/Israel. Israel or Jacob, that that person is the ancestor of the current population of the children of Israel. Jacob is one of the twins from Esau and Jacob. So Jacob had an encounter. He had a name change to Israel, and so that is the ancestor to these the current population. So when Israel goes to that place of worship, take their first fruit in the basket and give it to the priest, they're supposed to recite aloud the story of Jacob, and some translations call him a Aramean, but I read from the King James Version, he was called a Syrian. So that's just a slight difference than what I read, because here they say Aramean. Recite out loud his story, how he lived in Egypt. His descendants grew in population and then became enslaved. Detail how God heard Israel's cry during their enslavement and delivered them out of it. And so, this first fruits that you bought, offer it as an offering, worship before God, and then rejoice with your household, the Levite, and the stranger that is among you. Then we get to tithing. Verse 12. This is the third year, the year of tithing. You'll give tithes to the fatherless, the widow, the Levite, and the stranger for the intention of them eating until they were filled. So we see, again, I read from the King James, tithing, tithes, tithing. And then when we read about what this says, it is pertaining to taking care of people who most likely don't have a surplus to give. The Levite who gets no inheritance, the stranger who is not from the tribe of Israel, the fatherless who has to rely on a single mother most likely. And during those times, it was much more difficult for women to have income, and the widow. Husband die, again, that same situation. It's harder for women to make money then. This is what tithe is for. Right here in the Bible that says it. I know I'm working on not seeing any comments, but that's what tithe says right here. Announce to God that you have complied with his request, that you have obeyed and remembered his laws. Announce out loud that you did not eat while you were mourning or unclean. You didn't eat food that was offered to the dead. Tell God that you obeyed his voice and bless Israel. Ask God to bless Israel as you swore to their forefathers, as you swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So after you announce, that, hey, I did what God asked me to do, I followed all the rules completely. So God, please bless Israel as you swore that you would to our fathers. But even then, I feel like that's worded a little bit harshly. Hey, God, look at what I did. Bless us. That's kind of how that comes off when I read it. Last verse 16 through 19. God commands you this day to adhere to these rules. You declared God is your Lord, and you will obey him. You will be honored and holy unto God as promised. That is all that I have right now for Deuteronomy chapter 26. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Have a wonderful day.